Let me touch a little bit back on the management scale. It's really different. It depends on the situation. You'll get some management companies that'll go anywhere from 15 to 30%. Some will charge, a high of 30 to 35 and won't get any expenses paid back like phone calls and so forth. But I just want to give you an idea of what kind of the scale is out there. It depends on between the artists, but that's what really the scale can be at this point. Questions?
Well, I've never heard 35%.
Oh,
yeah, I was just going to say it's real new to me.
I've heard one.
I'm going near that. No way.
Well, and let me.
On Park was 50%. Yeah. That was fun. And Springsteen signed his life away on the hood of a Dodge, but that doesn't make it right.
I know of certain situations where, it was agreeable with the band where the management was basically the money bank, and he put he's putting a ton of money into an artist, and he thought that was a fair payback, and the artist agreed. So if you have a management that's willing to put in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, he's looking at a nice percentage to recoup. But as Joey talked about, some managers that we totally want to stay away from being a financial backer.
I would think the problem with a 35% commission like that would be the fact that once a band goes along, you have an agent fee on top of that. That would be an additional 10%. And then you might have a business manager on top of that who will also do your taxes. That's another 5% on top of that. You'd end up at that rate putting 50% off on commissions, which would be way out of line.
Plus taxes, plus expenses. You might as well work at Wawa.
Yeah, you're paying to play, yeah.
If anybody really went to you for over 20%.
70% away at the end of the day, you take home 30. Crazy. Wow.
Questions?
What all do you commission then? Do you commission everything from live performance to TV sales, merchandising? Or is there certain things that you don't commission?
Well, I think probably Greg could touch on that since he has the newest signed artist on the panel here.
For the most part, usually advances, cash advances. You don't tour support, things like that. You don't commission that. We don't. I don't know how other people would look at that, but that would probably be pretty tacky. For the most part, live performances. As far as merchandise, that would be maybe just on the net, or if the band actually did a merchandising deal, the advance on that. But for the most part, you're looking at more net figures in merchandising and TV sales and things of that nature if you're not necessarily signed to a record deal.
I'll give you a good example of that. If you go to, even if you're a new act that's signed, but you have no income and you're struggling, but you're on tour with somebody and you're getting a break, your first break or something. You play, you do a national tour and you play a venue, and the big promoter, the big local promoter in town will take, let's say, 35 or 40% of your merch. Well, if you sell a CD, you want to sell them for 10 or 12 bucks, but you got to sell them for like 15. So they take 40% of $15. Then you're down to $9. Now, if a manager commissions the gross of that 15, you're down to $6, and the discs you're paying $5 or $5.50 for. So the band makes 50 cents divided by 4 or 5, 6 people. So basically, in the merchandise situation, a lot of times managers will, like Greg said, will commission the net. So if the promoter takes 40%, and in the bigger venues they will, and the CD sells for $15, then the manager should commission the profit, or at least if not just the profit, then the $9. Some managers will commission the net, which is the $9. They'll make $1.80. The band pays $5. Then there's like $3.20 to split up. But in a lot of situations, they'll take just whatever the band profits. If the band makes $5, and then they'll take their dollar if they taken 20%, or they'll take their 75 cents. I mean, I think the key is here that we're all working towards the big picture, and if there's a lot of money to split up, you know, it's all going to work out in the end. You know, everything else is just nickels and dimes in the beginning. I mean, a manager works far much more than they're going to get paid for a long time in the beginning, unless something falls on your plate. Unless if you're with a big agency, you know, and something gets handed to you and it's already happening, or it just blows up right away, you know, that's not the usual situation, I don't think. But a lot of managers will not, most, in my book, and this is just my opinion, and I hope most people up here, if not everybody, will agree with me, managers should not take from the recording advance, for the recording budget. If a band gets a signing bonus of $100,000, you split it up and the manager commissions it. But if the recording fund is $200,000, the manager doesn't take his $30,000 or $40,000. That money goes into making a record. If you spend $150,000, and I know these numbers sound preposterous, but that's, you know, when you get the deals, I mean, you're almost forced to get into these situations. If you have a $200,000 budget and you spend $150 of it, and the band gets the other $50 that they didn't spend, then that should be commissioned, but not the actual fund. If in my situation, we sell CDs and we all split that up. But even in the beginning now, nobody commissions the T-shirts and hats. We could be selling maybe $500 to $1,000 a day worth of stuff, but we all want to build a little nest egg and just put it back into the merch and kind of build on that. You know, the key is to just really trust and have a great, close working relationship with the person you end up working with. And I would hope inevitably that everybody would be working towards the same picture.
Question? John?
You guys always out looking for new acts that you can manage?
What do you play, John? I heard they named this town after you.
I mean, you're always actively seeking to find, or pretty much your place full all the time?
My plate's never full for a hit that I'm going to make a lot of money off of. So, yeah, I'm always looking. I mean, it may not be actively, but it's, you know, my ears and eyes are always open.
You consider sharing management with other people sometimes?
I probably do that.
Situation with Peter Friedman, I guess, on live. It's not always the rule, but I guess anything's possible sometimes.
That works out very well for us. You know, sometimes if you're a young manager, it might be a good idea too for you to hook up with a management firm that has some established acts, and you can make some kind of arrangements or a deal with them where you might work, you know, on some kind of a split commission at that point, and you know, and they'll have them for the guidance, and they get to fight all the time. Sure.
Going back to what the lady was saying, she just said she's always looking, but earlier she said you don't really like to accept unsolicited material. How do we broach the two? How can we endear ourselves to you so that if you're always looking, we can catch you in that moment when you're willing to take something that maybe a lawyer
That's a really good question, because you know, people ask me, how'd you get into this business? And I got out of college, I knew nobody in the industry. I did not have any connections, and people are always saying, you gotta know somebody, you gotta have, you know, you gotta network, you gotta have that connection. And I was in school in Chicago, came back to New York, and I was a film major in college, but the film industry wasn't happening in New York, so music was my second love, and I said, all right, I'll just do that. Okay, now what? And you know, I went to employment agencies, and there were no employment agencies for record companies or for management companies, really. And, you know, then I got creative, and I remember when I was in school, there was a woman who was working with David Sanborn. And so I figured, okay, it's not really my kind of music, but let me call her up. And I called her up, and I said, I think, you know, I want to get into the music business. Can I come and talk to you? Went in and talked to her. We talked about publicity and promotion and all these different areas of a record company, which I didn't know. And I said, yeah, I think I'd like to try promotion. She said, okay. Next thing you know, her assistant's sitting there. She says, oh, I know there are 2 job openings, one at Electra and one at Chrysalis. Let me call. And next thing you know, I got an interview. And that's how I got in. There's kind of no formula. So in regards to, you know, how does a band or an artist get noticed to an A&R person or a manager or an attorney or something, you just kind of have to get creative. I think what I find interesting personally, if I see a band or an artist busting their ass to, in their community, in their hometown, building a following, and I go and see them, and I see they got their own CD that they're selling. They filled the club up with a couple hundred people. They've got a whole mailing list. They're doing the work that I'm going to do with them once I start working with them anyway if they're not signed. And once they are signed, you got to continue doing that. So I look at any artist that I'm going to work with, not just for the music and the talent that I think they have, but for like a partnership. You know, and hand in hand together, we're going to figure out what their goal is, where they want to be, what's the best way to do that, and we do it together. And that's what goes back to the whole money thing for me. When I was first managing Amanda with Mary Me Jane, she was a secretary at Skip Barney, and she remained at that job. It was not easy because she was leaving in the afternoon, she'd go change clothes, go to rehearsal, and then go play a gig at night, and but she did it. And, you know, she did it so she could pay the musicians and for the rehearsals and, you know, and so I hope that helps to answer your question. There's kind of no formula, but, you know, I met Vicki Walls over the internet, and then she invited me down here last year, and then I came this year, and, you know, we hadn't even met until I saw her last night. So.
The creative is an excellent way to grab someone's attention. Even on the aspect when you're managing an artist who's putting out an independent regional release, you know, a lot of tactics like being grabbing someone's attention as you're trying to get radio airplay, sending the CD out with a follow-up, sending him a pizza with everything on it, with CDs in the pizza box. Maybe 3 days later, send him double pizzas with pizzas in the pizza box. Hell, we've already sent a stripper to the radio station. You know, but I'm just saying there's a lot of different ways of being creative to grab someone's attention if you really think you have an excellent product.
Did you get the ad after you sent the stripper?
It worked.
We're going to try that on Monday. There's a couple stations we need desperately. Listen, to go back to John Harris, he left the room, but what he was saying, if a young manager had something and they knew they needed help and they came to me, which many have, and they had something that just sounded awesome, I'd be open to setting something up. I mean, I think anything goes in this business. I think the people who are in our positions are passionate about music. If you hear something you love, I don't know about everybody else, but I gotta have it. So, you know, anything can work. You know, there's no standard formula. It's just about anything.
You know, excuse